now I want to jump back to the story that is dominating the news cycle, and that is this whole Epstein fallout. And I want to start, basically, we kind of covered what we think. I want to go a little bit different track. And that is that, I want to let you know this is absolutely affecting the Trump administration. It's affecting it in two ways. One, we're going to check in with some polling. It is having a major impact on Trump's approval rating. So this is not unseen. This is not a small sliver of the MAGA base. This is not something that I think Donald Trump can ignore. It's not, he tried in that cabinet meeting to try to deflect. I don't think that's going to work. It's showing up in his approval rating. It's showing in the fact that this story is growing legs. But let's dive in with Glenn Greenwald as an opener, and then we'll get into some of the polling information. And then we'll get into several takes on how the Trump administration can move forward, move through this, and fix it. Again, thanks everybody for rolling up. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know you're here in the comments. If you really like the content, please share it with everybody that you know. Let's dive in.
Maybe what you meant by that, but that's not what was asked. They didn't ask, is the Epstein file going to be released? The question that we showed last night specifically was, are you going to release the client list? This is what Donald Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi have been demanding the release of this specific client list. And in response to that question, are you going to release the client list? She said, yeah, it's sitting on my desk for review. And now we're told there is no client list. What was sitting on her desk? She said, no, that's not what I meant. I meant the entire Epstein file. But there's so much more to it than this one specific comment. There's so many comments from all of these people like that. So let's see what the rest of what she had to say.
Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day.
Nobody wants that released. Nobody asked for that to be released. She's all acting like all, noble. Like she's strong. She's not. She doesn't care how many people demand to watch the videos of Jeffrey Epstein having sex with young kids or the child porn. Nobody asked for that. That was never part of what was demanded. Not by her, not by anyone else interested in this case. It's a complete straw man. How dare you demand the release of disgusting child porn? We're not going to ever show that. No one wants that. No one cares about that. No one's seeking that.
To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Oh, okay, that's it on Epstein. Do you see what this decree? No more on Epstein. No more okay. This is, I only saw the part about Trump, the excerpt. I didn't hear Pam Bondi's answer. But I want you to note something here. She was asked a very specific question, which, as I keep saying, is a key question, if not the key question. For me, it's the key question, because it's never been answered, including in their statements yesterday, which is, did Jeffrey Epstein work with a foreigner or domestic intelligence agency? And you notice they're not answering that. She said, I don't have any knowledge of that. We'll have to get back to you, as though that wasn't even something.
And this is a major problem. This is why I believe this story is, there's three types of stories kind of that you can think of. There's three classes of stories, right? There's the class of stories which are complete nothing burgers. They get released, by the media or into the media reports on them, and they're instantly gone. Like they die instantly. No one cares. It's a dud. Then there's the story that flashes in the pan, right? It goes hot for 24 hours. It's big news. Everybody talks about it, but then it gets supplanted by the next big thing, right? It boom, it blows up. It's there for 24 hours. The news cycle shifts and it's gone. Then there are stories that grow legs. Then there are stories that maybe start small and they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they become that proverbial snowball rolling down the mountain. And that, unfortunately for the Trump administration, is what this story is becoming. And the reason for that is because of all of the unmet expectations that they created for the last 6 months. Kash Patel was out there calling for the release of the Epstein list. Bongino was out there calling for the release of the Epstein list. Then they get into government. Now they've been silent about everything. So it's not that they're just silent about this. They've been pretty much silent, talking very little about anything. They've just gone to work trying to reclamate the agencies, especially the FBI. But Pam Bondi was out there before nomination and after nomination, constantly talking about releasing the list. Now, Pam Bondi looks like she was really interested in publicity and trying to get clicks and trying to get people to like her. I don't know. But she built a level of expectation that has now been unmet. But it's been unmet in such a weird and unsatisfying way. It would have been one thing if she'd have held a press conference that said, look, I know I've been promising this. After we've delved into all the data that we had, all the quote unquote evidence, what we're finding out is that this evidence is a big nothing burger. And they could have even used the ploy that, hey, what we're finding is that there's a lot of video, but all of the video is of Epstein with children. And that doesn't make sense to us, knowing what we know. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open an investigation to find out who, because it appears that evidence has been destroyed or deleted or compromised. I am launching an investigation to find out who within the DOJ may have compromised this evidence. If she'd have done that, she would have effectively said, I'm not releasing anything, but they would not have completely tubed the coalition, the MAGA base. The MAGA base would have said, okay, I'm disappointed, but there's a path here. Okay, there's an explanation. But just them coming out saying, there's no list, there's no blackmail, nothing to see here, give it up, is not going to fly, because a vast majority of the young people that voted for Trump did so because they want government transparency. They want government accountability. They do not trust the government. Certainly not like people in their 60s or 70s who, grew up trusting the government. They don't trust it. And they thought that Trump was possibly a pathway to trust the government again. And this is a major faux pas, because it's not about Epstein. It's about, was Epstein working for the government, and what was covered up, and who are all the other perpetrators? Epstein is dead. He's gone. It's about the other people who might be involved. Who were, if any, the powerful people that were involved in this? And it may not even be that you can release a list, in which case Pam Bondi should have stood up there and said, look, I want to release to you a list of names. Unfortunately, we do not have any names that I can back up with evidence. Otherwise, I would tell you that I am opening investigations on the following people. But I can't. I don't have evidence to open investigations. And I can't necessarily release their names, because without evidence, I'm essentially slandering them as the US government. We can't do that. That's defamation. Now, if you'd have done that, people would have been upset, but they would have lived with it, especially if you'd have followed that up with, but we are opening an investigation into the names that we have. And if we get evidence, if we obtain new evidence, we will indict. Now, if you'd have done that, the MAGA base would have been disappointed, but this story would have died in 24 hours. It would have been supplanted by the next big thing. It would have been absolutely crushed by the Comey, Brennan, DOJ investigation news. But that's not what they did. They rolled it out, and it very much looks like they're lying about it. And it is having an effect on the Trump administration. And because of that, I think we already see Trump pivoting a little bit. Check this out. First of all, we're going to get into the approval ratings, because this is having an absolute effect. Breaking. Pollster Rasmussen reports Trump approval rating on the verge of an all-time low. And we're going to listen to Rasmussen in his own words, because this is affecting the Trump approval rating. Check this out.
About this is that they don't understand why people are so upset about this. And yes, in February, they got away with that little snafu without any impact, because a lot of stuff was going on, a lot of other stuff, but people also expected that this was still going to come out. Will the fact that they've completely called a mulligan on the Epstein investigation sink Trump's administration? I don't know, but it's currently sinking his approval numbers, because they do not get public opinion. They don't understand it. And that's really wild, because listen, I'm here to poll on all this stuff. I think I can show you a very clear reason why people want finality, closure in this Epstein situation. But here is Trump's daily approval snapshot, and his Approval index, strongly approve minus strongly disapprove, is now at -9. It's about to hit double digits. And that is, I think that's the first time this entire administration that he's gotten there almost. Approval, net approval, is now -2. That's the lowest it's been since April 30th with all the chaos around Liberation Day. Total approval is now 48. -2 is not a good place to be when you won with 2. And for the first time in a while, a majority of Americans disapprove of Donald Trump today. Although, interestingly, right track is still 45%, super elevated, really high. It's just floating there right in the mid 40s. And from what political identities is Trump losing support? Across the board. He's down to 81% with Republicans. Democrats are sinking too. Democrats were as high as 30% this term. They're down to 22. And he's underwater 10 points with independents. Not a good place to be considering he won with independents. And black approval now is under 30%. Black voters are very tuned in to the issue of justice, law and order. It's one of the places where they poll more conservatively. And for
young voters and black voters are absolutely affected by this based on the government transparency and the justice issue. Now, we already see some signs of the Trump administration turning. One thing about Donald Trump is his own man. He makes up his own mind, and he will change a decision. If he feels like a decision went wrong, he will absolutely change it. You see him a lot of times float trial balloons, like this nonsense with the farm workers and the hospitality workers, and then shift on a dime when he realized, that's not going to work. Yeah, we're out. In this particular case, I think he was so caught up with everything else, with the beautiful bill, and that Epstein wasn't on his mind, and the surrogates ran with it, and the surrogates have now screwed it up. And Trump initially just tried to run cover and say, let's get through this. It'll die in the news cycle. Realizing now that it's not going to die in the news cycle, you already see some signs of the government shifting gears. Check this out. I think Benny Johnson released this, but from Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. So Justice Department reports to court it is reviewing FBI DOJ Epstein records for possible release. Now realize that Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch have been continuously suing the government with FOIA requests to get this information. Now it appears that we're back on the track of, we're going to see what we can release and give it out to you. So it looks like already that Trump may have sent some internal signals. No. Fix this. And if that means we have to release whatever data we can, evidence or information we can release, then we're going to release it. Start putting it out there now. Now I want to get into 2 video stories because I think what we're finding out now, everybody is coalescing around a position, different nuances, different tenets, but essentially it is the only way out of this mess for the Trump administration and for Trump is through. And you have to go through. And that's going to take basically releasing everything you've got. It's going to take rebuilding trust and transparency. Check this out from Bill O'Reilly on the Glenn Beck program.
Come out and say, it's all sitting on my desk. And then when she doesn't release it, she says, well, that's because the FBI in New York is thwarting this process. There are people up there that are trying to keep this from me. And then she makes no arrests on that. We never hear about that again. And now all of a sudden there's nothing to see.
Well, listen, Pam Bondi doesn't make decisions on her own. No cabinet member does. All the decisions come out of the West Wing. So what I believe happened was Trump was so obsessed with the big bill, with Iran, with Putin, with China, that he didn't even think about this. Okay? And then it slowly began to unravel, and then it caught him by surprise. But this is easy to fix. So
easy.
If I'm in charge, and that would be a great thing for everyone except you, Beck. But every other American, if I were in charge, tremendous. You would be in Botswana.
No.
Right.
Oh, I know.
You would be on a plane on your way.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I'd be the ambassador of the white farmers in South Africa if it were up to you. I know.
No, you'd be wandering around going, I'm Glenn Beck. And they go, who? That's what you'd be doing.
That's every day.
So this could happen within the hour. Pam Bondi announces a press conference for tomorrow. At that press conference, sitting next to her is Merrick Garland, everyone, the Attorney General under Biden, who had this stuff for 4 years. Now, I understand that Mr. Garland's gone native and is living in Anguilla, but we can find him. We can pull him out of there and have him and Pam sit there and answer questions in a general way about what evidence the Justice Department of the United States has compiled.
Exactly. You've got to call a press conference. I don't know about having Merrick Garland there. That's an interesting twist. There's all kinds of evidence. It's under seal right now because Ghislaine Maxwell is appealing her case. So yes, the box of diamonds, a lot of that is under seal. It's in a vault. It's only accessible to the DOJ lawyers, the Maxwell lawyers, and the judge. So all of that evidence, you couldn't release that anyway, not until after the appeal is over. But everything else that they've got, they need to figure out a way to release it. Redact it, do whatever you need to do. But Bannon had another very interesting take. I think between holding a press conference, sitting down with a Brett Baer or somebody and talking this out, showing their work. In addition, I think Bannon had a great idea. And this is a way for Trump to distance himself as well as promise justice for everyone involved. Check this out.
They have to go and demand, they have to go to the court and demand and unseal the sealed evidence in Epstein. It starts there. Then bundle everything together you got, sealed and unsealed, and release it all. Or, which I've called for yesterday, he should appoint a special prosecutor, special counsel now for the 2020 election and everything after that, and include Russiagate and all this. You have to do that. That should be done immediately, and that should report to the President of the United States. And also, they should do one if DOJ can't move off the dime, and the FBI can't move off the dime, there should be a special counsel to go through everything and release it all. It seems to me like a binary function.
Absolutely. I think this is the way for Trump to essentially pull it out, at least figuratively, pull it out of Bondi's hands so that the lack of trust there does not affect it, essentially separate himself from it, but give everybody the promise of some level of transparency. Have a press conference, show your work, appoint a special counsel with the sole purpose of unsealing everything, getting it ready for release, releasing it, and investigating everybody involved. You do that, you go through this thing, I think Trump could come out of this smelling like a rose on the other end. Let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you really like the content, share it with everybody that you know. Also, you can join us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube as a member, also at Patreon. Remember that God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Until I catch you next time.